Well, good morning, everybody. I appreciate you taking your time this morning, Saturday, here at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to be here present at our marketing boot camp. I can't even tell you how excited I am to be able to share this information with you. And this is something I've been wanting to do for some time. And the information that I'm going to cover here today is what I've really wanted to do for some time. And I really feel that it is the key to making the income and getting set free financially in this industry. And it's the stuff that I don't think anybody ever really puts enough emphasis on or ever talks about, but it made an incredible difference in my life. So we're going to talk about how to turn your business into a six-figure per year home-based business. But the stuff that we're going to talk about isn't about lead generation. We're going to be getting to those modules in number 3 thereafter. This is the stuff that needs to take place before you generate your first lead in the business. And if you don't have this stuff in place, then it doesn't matter how many leads you're generating and how many folks you're talking to, it just isn't going to gel, and you're not going to get to the side of success in this industry you're looking for. And again, this is the information that I don't see anybody ever cover. Now, what I'm going to cover here, if you would give me the permission, I'll be telling a lot of stories. I'll be going over a lot of particular life experiences I've had in this business. I want you to know that what I'm going to be sharing with you isn't regurgitated stuff I've read somewhere. Of course, a lot of this is put together through me reading and studying this industry for the last 25 years, but it's my personal experience and my personal stories. And that's why this training is going to be very easy for me, because I'm going to share a lot of my personal stories so I can tell you how I got from where I was at to where I'm at today in this industry. And I think a lot of you will be able to relate to this because you're probably in the same situation, have gone through the same things. But it's those stories that makes this training for me very, very easy to do. And again, I hope you don't mind occasionally. Sometimes I can get through my stories fine. Sometimes I get a little shook up, emotional about them, because when I step back 20 some odd years ago, I can still feel some of the pain. I can still feel some of the challenges. And then I even feel for you because I know that you're in the same situation. So if I do get a little shook up, just give me a few moments to compose myself and I'll get back. If you've been on my trainings before, you know sometimes I do carry my emotions on my sleeve, and I'm going to apologize for that, but not apologize for that if you don't mind, because it really has helped me pursue this industry with the passion that I do pursue it with. So with that being said, we're going to talk about some things that I really think need to be in fact, I know they need to be in place before you ever generate your first lead. And if you allow me to get through this step in module number 2, module number 1, and module number 2, module number 3 onward will be about lead generation. But again, not to sound like a broken record, these things need to be in place first before you generate the first lead. And some of the stuff you may have heard in the past, but I don't think you've heard it in the way that I'm going to share it. So with that being said, again, I want to thank you for being here, and this will be recorded, so if you want to go over it again and again, that would be great. And please have a pen and a piece of paper handy, because you're going to want to jot some notes. So with that being said, let's go ahead and push forward here. Let me just start off with a little bit of my own personal story, because I know we have a lot of folks here that have not heard it. And again, as I tell these stories, please know that I'm not trying to be braggadocious about anything I've accomplished or not accomplished, or I'm not trying to share these stories to break my arm, pat myself on the back. Not at all. I just want everybody to know, particularly the brand new folks here that have not heard, that I come from very humble beginnings to finally end up with some success in this industry. And I do feel that many of us here are kind of a kindred spirit, that we're all kind of wired the same way, and I'll talk a lot about that in detail in a moment. But I've been doing this for a little over 25 years now. My background had nothing to do with marketing, had very little to do with success. I was a machinist by trade in the aerospace industry. My father was a machinist. My grandfather was a machinist. And I got into the machine shop when I was 16 years old. And then at 17 I began my apprenticeship. And by 20 I was a journeyman machinist, which was an okay income, pretty good income for a skilled trade. But I knew looking at that wasn't going to be my way of getting ahead financially. I had some pretty big dreams and goals that I wanted to accomplish, and some things I wanted to do for my family, that I really thought that trading time for dollars was not going to allow me to live that lifestyle. So I always knew in the back of my mind that my job was probably just a temporary stepping stone onto doing something else. But lo and behold, like most folks, you get a decent paying job and you start getting the bills to go along with that, and the house payment and the car payments and all the other stuff goes along with it. You kind of find yourself stuck. And as I moved up the pay raise as a machinist, it was enough of an income to certainly pay the bills. But we were living like most folks do, you know, one paycheck away from bankruptcy. If I missed a paycheck, we were hurting for certain financially. And after about 10 years of doing that, I realized I needed to do something else. But I don't have a formal education, so in order to make the income that I always dreamed about, I bumped into this wonderful industry of network marketing. And basically what happened to me is my shift for most of my machinist career was I worked 3 in the afternoon till 3 in the morning. That was my shift, and worked that for almost 10 years. And I got home at 3 o'clock, about 3:30 in the morning, sat down and was going to have a bowl of cereal before I hit the hay. And I was watching some television, and a little billboard commercial came across the screen, and it just said, "Are you currently making $15,000? Is what you're doing currently paying you $15,000 per month?" And I kind of scoffed, and I thought, $15,000 per month? Who makes $15,000 per month? I mean, here I was working incredible hours and bringing home maybe $2,500 to $3,000 on a monthly basis. Well, I responded to that ad. Before I went to bed, I called the 800 number that came across my television, and I left a message. And the next day, I had a gentleman call me, and he set an appointment. And then when on one of the Saturdays I wasn't working, he showed up at our house and proceeded to show me the whole concept of network marketing. Now, I didn't get involved with that program because, quite frankly, the product line he shared with me I couldn't get into. But it planted the seed for me that I actually could make an income not based on one man, one person, one job, one paycheck, that I could actually make an income based on leverage, not just based on my own efforts, but based on the leverage and income of many people's efforts. And that kind of planted the seed for me. And then I began studying network marketing, and about 6 months later picked a program and got involved and started building that business. Now, I wish I could tell you I had success right out of the gate. I did not. I didn't have close to success right out of the gate. I realized that I was mentally and emotionally and I just wasn't equipped for this business from the get-go. I had a lot of stumbling blocks, a lot of mental things based on my childhood that I had to get over. I'm a very introverted person, so to go out there and generate sales back then in the old days, you pretty much had to be face-to-face with people to make the business work. All that was incredibly difficult for me. And even today, I'm a pretty quiet person. I'm not a life of a party. I'm perfectly fine sitting in the bay in my kayak just fishing and having a good time. I mean, I'm okay by myself. I don't need to be around a crowd of people. So to be in the people business was an incredible stretch for me and way, way out of my comfort zone. So I struggled for some time, but I got my hands on everything I could read and study to try to get better at this business. And I just want you to know that I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth to make this business work. Far from it. In fact, most people I meet, if not just about everybody I meet in this industry, are far better equipped from the get-go to succeed in this business than I was. I was actually flunked in school because I never said anything. I was held back because teachers thought something was wrong with me because I didn't speak. My wife would send me to the grocery store to pick up a particular brand of green beans. I would come home and she'd say, "Well, where are the green beans?" I said, "I couldn't find them on the shelf." And she'd say, "Well, could you not ask somebody where they were at?" And I'd say, "Hun, that means I'd have to talk to a stranger. You know me, I'm not going to do that." Folks, I've had to come a long ways to make it in this business. So what I'm going to share with you is real easy for me to share because it's my personal life story. And if you've been on any of my trainings in the past, you know I'm pretty hard on this particular subject. I get a little bit upset of folks that try to share with people how to succeed in this business knowing that they've never walked in my moccasins. They've never walked in my shoes. They've never walked in your shoes. Sometimes they're a one-hit wonder, got lucky once, and they become an industry guru, or they just call themselves a guru in a YouTube video, and therefore we're supposed to think that they are. I don't like people training things that they actually have never done themselves. So throughout this whole boot camp, and it's going to be quite a trip that we're going to take here, this is going to be a long journey over the next 2 months, just know that everything I share with you is what I do and what I've done. And I think that's very, very important for you to know, because so often Again, you're hearing from people teaching you things that they've never actually proved that they work in the trenches themselves. So with that being said, that's kind of a little bit of my story, and I'll tell more of my story as we progress here this morning on the particular topics that I want to bring up to get you closer to getting you ready, so when the leads start hitting, when I start teaching you the lead techniques that I utilize, you're going to be positioned and armed and mentally ready to handle those leads in the right way. So let's move on to module number 1, my secret, which is what I would call your mental foundation, part number 1. And this mental foundation, again, is what I feel needs to be in place before one lead ever hits your voicemail, one lead ever hits your back office, one lead ever hits, your autoresponder. When you start calling and talking with folks, I want that mental foundation to be planted so you can go the distance in this business. And I want you to go the distance in this business. It took me 4 years to finally end up on the side of making enough income to support a family, and that was through bankruptcy and everything else, and I'll share more of that in a little bit. But I want your mental foundation to be laid first before we get into how to generate leads. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. By the way, without the proper mental foundation, I can tell you this particular photo in months like this would be absolutely impossible for me. I've had the luxury and the blessings of building 5- and 6-figure, you get to keep monthly income for over 21 years now. This was a month where 117,000 came in a single month. And folks, those aren't uncommon. They happen pretty frequently for me. And again, I'm just an average guy who had a lot of things to overcome, finally figured this thing out, and it's just an absolute blessing for me to be able to share that with you, how I've been able to do this over the last 20 some odd years. So that would be impossible for me if I didn't have the mental game in place. Now, there are 4 mental foundational building blocks that must be in place to succeed in this industry. And again, I'm going to make my point real clear with all of these with some personal stories. So if you will grant me the latitude to share some lengthy stories with you on how I've been able to do this. Again, I'm not telling you to brag about what I've done. I want to share with you so you can know that where I've come from, if I can come from there and make it in this business, I have all the belief in the world within you that you can do the same thing. I know that. And I'm glad I went through those struggles because it helped me to build the character and who I needed to be to handle the success even when it showed up. And there was even some points in time when we had some major success in this industry that I did some wrong things with that income, and we suffered again financially, only to have to start over again. So it's been quite a journey for me, and I'm just really happy to be able to share that with everybody. Here's foundational number 1, and that's why are you here? Why are you here? Not just at this training. Why did you embark on wanting to take on this industry? Why do you want to carve out some time your already busy schedule to do this business? What's your real driving reason for being here? Why do you want to learn how to sell your top tier program? Why do you want to venture into this territory? What things in life for you are kind of left undone? And then if you can get the money whirls out of your life, what do you really want to do? So why are you here? Because I can guarantee you, if you don't know why you're pursuing this business, if you don't know why, you're not going to make it. You just won't. You got to have a passionate, driving reason why you're going to tackle this business. And to be honest with you, if your reason is to make a bunch of money, that doesn't count. That is such a weak reason to be here. And it just isn't going to drive you through the obstacles and challenges. Hey, if anybody told you to make money in this business is going to be dirt simple, they fib to you. It isn't. And the reason it isn't is you're going to have some challenges along the way. You're going to have some obstacles that you need to get through. And it's not always easy to do. And if you don't have a driving reason why you're doing this, then you're not going to be able to you're not going to go the distance in this industry. You're just not going to. And again, money is the weak reason to do this. Granted, I show a lot of checks and all that, but the money isn't the reason why I'm here, and I'll share why I'm here in a moment. And I don't think in fact, I know it shouldn't be your reason to be here. Now, it might be a temporary why, but it better be very temporary because you got to go beyond that. Every success story that I've ever witnessed in this industry knew their driving why of why they're here, and never of any big success story I've ever heard was it the cash. That wasn't the reason why. So what is yours? What's your driving reason to want to do this? You know, and is it congruent with what's important to you? Let me tell you a little bit of my story to help you out a little bit, and it's going to maybe help you develop your driving why. I'm going to give you an assignment on this a little bit later so you can find out what your real reason and why to be here. But I can guarantee you that if you don't know why you're here, then you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it in this business long term. And this is why my why, I had a poor thought out why, and it really stalled my business. Let me just close this out. It really stalled my success when I didn't really know what my driving reason was. I thought I knew what it was based on some of the training I was receiving in the first program and the second and the third program I was in. And basically what I was told to do to find my driving why was to make up a dream board. I think you've all heard to do this, or put pictures on your refrigerator, or make up a dream book and read that on a daily basis. And usually what these were a combination of lifestyle and things of that such, and usually materialistic things. So my dream board consisted of, the car that I wanted to drive, the home that I wanted my family to live in, the area that we wanted to live in, vacations that we wanted to take. I mean, they were all pictures of those type of things, and basically that was my why. I thought it was my why. And I was putting all these dream boards together. In fact, my wife and I used to go out to model homes probably at least once or twice every month and walk them and dream that would be the house that we would live in. I would actually go to car dealerships and sit in the car that I wanted to drive and smell the leather and look at the interior and just admire the car to try to get me focused on pursuing my business, so one day I would actually drive that car, or one day that model home that we walked through I would actually be able to live in, with our family would actually be able to live in. That's what I thought my why was. Now, if that's your why, that's great. If that's what turns you on, if that's what gets you motivated to want to do this business, then go for it. I found out after years of using those as my driving why to get me through the obstacles and challenges I was facing, it just didn't work for me. And it didn't work for me because I'm just not a very materialistic person. Although we drive fairly ordinary cars. I mean, nothing exceptional. The home we live in is kind of nice because we enjoy living on the beach, and our life kind of becomes a vacation living on the beach. But I'm not real driven by materialistic things. I'm more driven by freedom and whatnot. But I had to discover my real why by accident. And when I discovered what my actual real why by accident was, that's when my life really, really began to change. And that why, again, happened by a sheer accident that happened to me. And when I discovered that why, that's when my business really began to change. Basically, here's what happened to me. And I hope I can get through this story without getting too shook up. If I do, just give me a few moments. I'll gather my composure and I'll get on with it. But basically, I had been in the industry, about 2.5, 3 years, and I was working it like a dog and had spotty success at best. At least I thought I was working it like a dog. I was in that constant flux of confusing activity with results, confusing things that I was doing with actually I thought it would generate some income. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well, because I think a lot of us get stuck right there. But in any event, I was working the business, so I thought real hard. 2.5 years later had gone by. I had already put my family through bankruptcy. I had quit my job prematurely when I got into network marketing, thinking I was going to go out there and make a mint in this business right off the bat. So I struggled and had some fair months that paid the bills, some months that wouldn't pay the bills. And after a few years of doing that, certainly we were bankrupt. I had been pursuing the business about 2.5, 3 years, and all my friends would say, Rod, that stuff doesn't work. You need to go back and get your machinist job. And quite frankly, most of my friends and people that we knew, they were pretty accurate. I wasn't succeeding. I ended up in the San Bernardino courthouse and filing for bankruptcy, and my wife and I lost both our cars. We lost our house. She even lost a business, a hair salon, which is a business she had prior to marrying me. Boy, did I feel like a dinky I felt bad about myself. My pursuit to try to make money in this business just wasn't working. And I thought my why to do this was all those materialistic things, the cars, the houses, all that kind of stuff, a big bank account. And it just wasn't driving me. It wasn't causing me to go out and do what I needed to do. And one day I was sitting in an old beat-up rented house in Fontana, California, and I was sitting there in the living room, looking out the window there at my son Joshua roller skating up and down the sidewalk. And I'm just kind of sitting there, kind of feeling sorry for myself, wondering, okay, what's going on here, Rod? Why can't you make this business work? Why are you guys struggling financially? What's going on with you? Why can't you do it? You know, beating myself up, having one of those self-pity talks with myself. And as I'm watching, and I'm kind of just glancing out the window and watching Joshua roller skate up and down the sidewalk, he hits a rock or something in the sidewalk and does a little somersault and ends up in the gutter and bashes his lip on the side of the curb. And I saw this happen, and I could even see the blood starting to stream down his face. And as I run out there in the front yard to hug my son, as I see his his tooth actually poked through on his lip, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but the first thought that went through my mind is, I'm embarrassed to say this, oh great, how are we going to pay for this? I mean, here was my son hurt, and the first thought that went through my mind was, how are we going to pay for this medical expense? How am I going to pay to get his lip stitched up? How are we going to pay for this? I mean, that's how low I was as a person. That's how low I was as a father. The first thought, and of course that thought escaped my mind immediately, and certainly my current concern was more for my son Josh, and by all means, but the fact that I even thought that first blew me away. I mean, that's how far off track I was as a father, as an individual. And because I thought that, my life changed in an instant. Immediately, it changed. And it changed because at that moment, I found my driving why. My driving why was to provide for my family. Because I wasn't doing that. Because I really wanted my family to live an incredible lifestyle. I wanted my kids, you know, we wanted to homeschool our kids, or if they were going to be in private school, to be in the best private school. I wanted my family to be taken care of financially, and I was doing an incredibly poor job of doing that. So that thought process changed my whole why in an instant. It wasn't the cars, it wasn't the house, it was just to have my family not have to worry about money anymore, not to have to be free and not have to have those burdens and wonder, how are we going to put groceries on the table today? That was my why. And as simple as that was, that's what drove me. Because I was just off track. I was thinking it was cars, it was houses and all that. No, it was just simple. It was sitting right in front of me. It was just to take care of my family. So I had read enough books by now and enough information to understand what the process was. And the process really was to work the numbers. It was just to go out and work the numbers in this business. Now back then, it was difficult to work the numbers. We didn't have the internet. I didn't have all these leads at my fingertip that I could just call and get them to a webinar. It was, you had to go out in the public and embarrass yourself, and for me, be way out of my comfort zone and talk to strangers. I had already gone through my warm market. They all thought I was crazy for doing this. I had already gone through the family, the friends, the neighbors, the relatives, the co-workers, had them all make fun of me, had all of them put me down. I already been there, done that, had that t-shirt. I had done that. Now what I had to do is go out there and talk to strangers. That was, I cannot even tell you how far. I mean, I was a guy that couldn't even go get the Del Monte green beans at the grocery store because I couldn't ask the clerk where they were at. So you got to understand, for me to go out and talk to strangers, incredibly difficult. And you're going to find out through this presentation, I used to play little games with myself and set things up, and I still do, to keep me accountable to the daily process. And here's what I did. I realized after having that thought process of, great, how are we going to pay for this when my son got hurt, I realized I needed to just go out there, man up, quit being a wimp, and go do this business. And here's what I did. I remember reading in a book from a gentleman, and I can't even remember his name, and I apologize for this, but he too was struggling, and he was a life insurance salesman, and he was struggling to make sales. So basically what he did was he would put 10 pinto beans in his pocket every day, go out in the marketplace and talk with complete strangers and he set himself accountable to talking to 10 people a day about his product. So I thought, okay, if it worked for this guy to sell life insurance, it certainly can work for me to build my network marketing group. So every day I'd put on a pair of slacks, a nice shirt, my shoes, and then I'd go to the cupboard, the pantry, and I'd pick out 10 pinto beans, and I would stuff them on my pocket, and I'd tell my wife, I'm taking off today, I'm going to go out and try to talk to 10 people. And I did that. Sometimes I would leave at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning and go to the mall, go to business workplaces, go to where people were having lunch when they took lunch from work, and I'd go out there and talk to a stranger about my business. And at that time, we had a little sample product that you would give to people. And after I got done giving my little 2-minute pitch about what I thought that product was, I'd reach in my pocket and hand them a sample so they could actually enjoy that product and try it. Most folks looked at me as if I was trying to hand them a turd. I mean, you get a lot of rejection when you do that, but I would go out there and do that. Sometimes it took me from 9 o'clock in the morning till midnight just to talk with 10 people. I would sit in the parking lot. I would muster up the courage to say, hey, there goes a sharp-looking person. I'll get on my car and go talk to them. And I mean, it was difficult for me. And finally, at the end of the day, I got my 10. Every time I talked to a stranger, I'd throw a pintle bean away. And as soon as my 10 beans were gone, I could go home. Folks, this process went on for months. And then finally, in my 3rd month, I was out there talking with strangers. And this gentleman said, you know what? I am looking for something. I have an insurance. He happened to have an insurance agency. He said, I have an insurance agency, and I'm looking to get out of that. And let me take a look at what you have. And he went home and went to the company website. He looked at the website. He liked what he saw. We were a nutraceutical company, and they had just. And this is how I know the numbers work in your favor. Get what I'm going to say next on this, because it's pretty amazing. But here's how I know the numbers will always work in your favor. As I was going out there and bumped into this gentleman, and actually it was a Gemco parking lot. Gemcos aren't even around in our area anymore. But anyhow, he took my sample, and on the back of that sample was the website. He went to the website, and this company had just come out with a pet product, which were drops that you put in the water, in your pet's water, so if they happen to have an accident on the carpet, it wouldn't smell. I thought, what a stupid product. I'm in a nutraceutical company. We're marketing nutritional products to help people to be healthy, and now we come up with this ridiculous no-stink pet product, and I'm never going to be able to sell that. Well, he went to the website. That was the first product that came up on the website because it was brand new and they were highlighting that product. I didn't know this, but he was getting ready to open up a pet shop as well. And he thought that product would be great for his pet shop. And he bought, I believe it was 38 or 42. It's a lot of product. He bought about $38,000 worth of that product. I didn't even know it until the company called me a week later and said, Rod, we'd like to feature on the company conference call we're doing on Tuesday. You took 3rd place in the personal production bonus award as far as doing the most personal production of cells, and we'd like you to talk on the conference call on how you did that. And I went, what? What are you talking about? Well, he said, go to your back office. I mean, how'd you sell that $30-some-odd-thousand worth of product? And there was that guy's name who bought $38,000 worth of product, which it placed me 3rd place in production for the company, and it got me a production bonus check above and beyond my little monthly check, which was between like $800 and $1,100 a month. It added another $8,500 to our monthly check. I mean, good grief. Here I was. I never saw much more than $1,500 a month ever in network marketing, and I just made that month just shy of $10,000 because I took 3rd place in that. I realized right off the bat, because I discovered my why, which was my family, and I needed to provide for my family, I was willing to man up and go out there and work the numbers. In my 3rd month, I found somebody that believed in what I was doing, bought the product, and I took 3rd place. I was on the front cover of the magazine of that particular company, and won that $8,500 plus another $11, just shy of 10 grand for that month. I never saw 10 grand per month ever in my life. I realized by knowing my why and by getting busy doing something, I was actually going to finally make money in this industry. And that is when my whole success began to arrive. I started being looked to as some type of a leader in this industry, even though I really wasn't. People started asking me how I was doing. I told them I was talking to 10 people a day. Other people started talking to 10 people a day. They started having success, and all of a sudden, that's when things started hitting pay dirt for me. And that's what happened. So it's important for you to know, is your why congruent with who you are? If materialistic things are important to you, and having the nice house and the cars and all that, that's something you want and that drives you, great, go there. If it's not something that drives you, then figure out what does. This has to be passionate. It has to come from the heart. You have to know why you're here. Because if I didn't know my why, if I didn't discover that why, when I was an idiot, and the first thought that went through my mind was, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this? Josh just hurt himself. That embarrassed me so badly that that's the first thought. When I discovered that my why really was just to take care of my family because I wasn't doing it, that pushed me to go out there and talk with strangers all day long. Felt like an idiot. Half the time I blew my 2 or 3 minute commercial when I was talking to somebody. Folks looked at me like I was handing them a turd half the time. But then in the third month I ran into the right person that changed my business forever. If you know your why, you'll get through whatever obstacle you're challenged with. You just will. Because that's the driving reason for doing this business, is understanding that why. So again, if you know your real why, the obstacles that you're faced with, they actually become nothing. They don't matter anymore because you've got a reason to go do this business. Now, I bet many of you right here probably are a lot like me. It's because you want to take care of your family. And if that's a reason, great. But I'd like to know what your why is. And at the end here, I'm going to give you a little bit of a challenge for you to write down your why. And I'm going to ask you what your why is. And I want to look those over. And I really want your why to go well beyond money. And if it's money initially, then I'd ask you, well, what is it that you want the money to do for you? Because all money does is get us free. It allows us to be free, so the real reason why we were placed on this planet can come to the surface. When you and I aren't buried every day with financial worries, then the talents and the abilities and all the gifts that you were blessed with, you get a chance to utilize them in life. But so many of us are so out there we're trying to make a living that we don't get a chance to discover why we're really here. And I don't believe any of us were put here to squeak out a living. That's not why we're here. You have a real passion. You have a real reason for being here. And it's not about making a living. It's almost always about giving back in some way. So when you know that why and you drive on that why, and that why helps push you through all the obstacles, then the money becomes no longer an issue in your life. And I think we all need to live in a way that money is not an issue in our life. So, and again, I'll give you a little something to do at the end here because I want you to think about that why. And please, give that why some serious thought over this weekend or a week or whatever until you narrow it down to what really will drive you to get through the challenges, because we're all going to have them. We just will. The number 2 is belief. Now, I'm going to share with you something about belief that I know no one's ever probably talked to you like this before about belief. You've never heard how I interpret belief in this industry from probably anybody else ever before. And this is something I've had to give a lot. And again, these have to be, whether you think these are important or not, let me tell you, they are. If you don't get through these four things I'm going to talk about here, again, all the leads don't matter. This is the little nuances, the little differences that make a big difference in your success in this business. They really do. It's the foundation that you can build on. And if this foundation isn't laid, it doesn't matter. You can't go forward. You just can't. So we're going to talk about belief in a whole different way that I will help you. By the time I get done talking about belief, you will have all the belief in the world that you can do this business. So if you give me about 15 minutes, I'll put the belief within you, unlike anybody ever has before. And I know this because I've given this a lot of thought. Number 1, you and I are a misfit. Let's just face the facts. We are a misfit. We are different. We're not wired like average folks. God has not played a cruel trick on us. We are just wired differently. I know that to be true. You're here because you're different. We don't buy into the 9-to-5 philosophy. We don't buy into work 40 years for somebody else to retire on 40% on what you couldn't make it on before. We don't buy into the 40-40 plan. In fact, that plan doesn't even exist anymore for most folks anyhow. We don't buy into traditional ways of making income. We're different. We think different. You and I are a kindred spirit. We're very much alike. And a lot of the world will look to you and I as a misfit. We think differently. All my family thinks that I'm kind of nuts. Even though they see the lifestyle we've been able to live for 20 years, they still quite haven't figured it out. So they stopped making fun of me for doing it, and they don't mind coming to us for loans now, but they still haven't figured out what it is that I do for a living, and I'll kind of keep them in mystery. That's okay. But a cruel trick hasn't been played on us, but we are a misfit. Now, once you have belief, I'm going to show you how it can help you to sponsor virtually 2 to 3, 400% more of the folks that you talk to because that belief is there. But again, we are different. Just know that we're different in a nice way. You know, I see it this way. We're wired in a whole different way. And there's a handful of us in the world that are wired that way. If you didn't think like an entrepreneur, if you weren't a person that wants to go out there and make things happen, there's no way this world would move along. There's got to be folks out there that don't want to have JOBs. There's got to be folks out there that have dreams and visions that want to create companies, that wants to create companies that do employ people. That's how we're wired. We're wired to go out there and do something different. But we're even wired in a little bit different way that, I don't know about you, but I don't buy into traditional businesses. I don't want employees. I don't want all the headaches that are encumbered with a brick and mortar type business. You probably feel the same way. I didn't buy into a job long ago, even when I was a machinist, and I bet you feel the same way about this. I bet if you ever have a job, if you have a job now, I bet in the back of your mind you've always thought this is a temporary situation. I bet you have. I bet you think that way now. Even when I had a great job, and most people think, Rod, you got a wonderful job, you make a good income, in the back of my mind I always thought, this is just temporary until I really figure out what I want to do here. I bet the same thoughts go through your mind. We're the same that way. That's why we do this business. That's why you spend a chunk of change to get involved within this industry, and that's why you spend another chunk of change to get on my boot camp. You want to do this business with a passion. That's how you and I are wired. But here's how I know that belief is you should have belief within you right now. I don't believe God has played a cruel trick on you. He did not play a cruel trick on me. And it would be a cruel trick on the both of us, on all of us, that if our mind was wired, if we were implanted with this thought to do things differently, that we don't buy into the 9 to 5, that we like to go out there and make things happen, we like to help people succeed, we like to help people become financially free, we don't think like the masses do, why would you and I be created that way if we didn't possess and own the skills and the tools necessary to make it happen? I don't serve a cruel God. My God has given me the belief I can do this because he has also equipped me with the tools to make it happen. Yes, they were buried under a lot of garbage. They were buried under a lot of viruses in my mind. But my default program has always been, and your default program is, because you're here, is to have a desire to do something unique with your life here, but you also have the tools to make it happen. In my biggest struggles in this industry, knowing that I was wired differently, to go out and do things differently here, a lot of quiet moments where I'd be up late at night, and I don't know about you, but when I'm struggling and I don't have the answers, I do a lot of praying. And I remember very vividly having this prayer many years ago, 20 some odd years ago, and I remember sitting down in a quiet place in our home, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, saying, Lord, if I'm supposed to do this, and if I have this desire to do this, why is it not happening? Why can I not make this business succeed? And I remember in the quiet times being told, I did not give you the desire to do this business without the skills and talents and tools to make it happen. I gave you the desire to do this business and also equipped you with the tools to make it happen. Now get on with it. You have the same thing. If you truly have a desire to make this business work, believe that you already have what's necessary to make it work. You just do. You have not been wired, you have not been created with the desire to make this happen, and a cruel trick has not been played on you that you don't have what's necessary to make it work. I guarantee you, you have it. I don't know how spiritual you are. I don't know whether or not you believe in the same God that I believe in. I think that most of you do. But you've been created to do great things. You have the desire, and you have everything else to make it happen. But what happens in life is we get all these stupid viruses planted in our head. It messes up our default settings in our mind that we can't do this, that we're not good enough to do this, that we're not equipped to do this, that we have all these deficiencies in our personality. I had all of that. And I firmly believe that Satan's greatest tool is to cause you not to be what you're called to be. Because I do know, and again I'll repeat this, that if you get money out of the way, the real reason for you being here will come to the surface. So in an instant, right now, this very moment, you can believe you can do this because everything is there. You just sometimes need to unbury it. And there's ways to unbury it, and we'll talk about that. But you just need to unbury it. You have the skills necessary to do this. So believe that you do. Because I do believe God did not play a cruel trick on you. He gave you the desire because you can do it. And you can. You definitely can. Now, the other part of belief that is very, very critical is once you have it, and everybody has it right now, you have it, but once you have it, you need to lend it to others. You need to lend it to others because they come to you as a lead, doubting whether or not they have it as well. And folks have to borrow our belief that we have, and they can't borrow it from us if we don't have it. They have to borrow our belief to be able to believe that they can go forward and get involved with our business. So when you just reek of belief, when you exude belief, when everything you say has belief, has the belief magic behind it, and it will, and it should, your prospects can borrow that and get involved with you. When I'm talking with somebody about our business, when I generate a lead and I get to know them a little bit, and I'm telling them about what I've accomplished in this business and what they can do, believe me, they believe they can do it as well because they hear it. They hear the conviction in my voice. They hear what's going on. And when they can hear all that, they too can borrow that for a little bit and do the same thing. So you got to have, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but it has to be in place. Now, I'm going to tell you 3 stories to kind of make this laser clear because I've learned in life that when others believed in me, I was able to go the extra mile and borrow theirs. And I know there's these stories that have happened in your life where you can think back of folks that believed in you in something. Maybe it was something big, maybe it was something small, but because they actually believed in you in whatever task or whatever you were trying to accomplish, you therefore were able to go on and do it and get it done and not realize you even accomplished it. And when you think back, you realize, you know what, I would have never got here if so-and-so, if Mr. or Mrs. so-and-so or a friend, whoever it might have been, didn't believe that I could do this. Because so often, folks around us, the ones that really care, the ones that need to be in our lives, the folks that mean something to us, they can see things in us we don't even see in ourselves. And that's happened throughout my life. And it happened very young for me when I was even in 5th grade. Now, I didn't know this was happening, and I didn't know the good Lord had planted this in my life at the time to help push me and recall and use this later in life. But I grew up in a very dysfunctional household, and many of us did. And I'm not going to go into my childhood, but it wasn't a childhood I would wish on to anybody. But in any event, I had a 5th grade teacher that kind of knew what was going on at the home front and took an interest in me. And his name was Mr. Hornbeck. And Mr. Hornbeck noticed on the playgrounds that I was a pretty fast runner, and I was a good jumper, and I had some athletic ability. And in our particular area in Southern California, they had what's going on once every year. They don't have them anymore, and I wish they did, but it was called the Little Olympics. And in the Little Olympics, all the 5th and 6th graders would get together on a state basis, and they would compete in track and field events. Well, Mr. Hornbeck noticed that I was a good runner and I was a good jumper. And he, one day on the playground, he came up to me and said, "Hey, Rod, the Little Olympics are coming up, and I'd like to enlist you in the long jump." Now, I didn't know what the long jump was, and I didn't even know what the Little Olympics were, but he basically said, "Rod, why don't you every day come to school with a pair of shorts and a pair of tennis shoes, and after school, meet me out in the field here, and we're going to work on the long jump." Well, for 3 months straight, the first couple of weeks, we together dug a sand pit, made a little runway, made a launching pad where I could launch off of, which was like a 2x4 that was in the ground, and that's the point where my foot had to touch and then leap off that area. And he taught me how to do the long jump. He brought a couple chairs out there, and we would put yarn across them, and he taught me how to jump high, and then he taught me how to jump far, and we worked at it for many, many months. And I got to tell you, that was the first kind of father figure that took a real interest in my life. and taught me something. And I got to tell you, I look so forward to those days every day that he would take me, that when school would end and I'd go in the restroom and put my shorts and tennis shoes on, and I'd meet Mr. Hornback out there in the playground. And he taught me how to do that. And I remember numerous times his wife would show up and say, let's go home now. And he'd say, no, we're going to just keep working here with Rod until he gets this long jump deal. And sometimes it was from time school ended till nighttime that we worked together. And we worked together, and he taught me how to do this long jump. Well, it came time for the Little Olympics, and even my parents didn't even show up for the Little Olympics. It was just me and Mr. Hornback. But that's for another story. But in any event, I remember them calling my name on a loudspeaker, and now next to jump, Rod Stinson from Cawthorn Elementary, and I'd get up there and I'd run down that 40-yard stretch, and I'd hit that board and jump. And the first jump I fouled, it didn't count. And I'd look to Mr. Hornbeck in the stands, and he'd give me a high five, go for it again. And then it was time. They called my name again, and the second jump I fouled. And I thought, oh my gosh, all this time and work that he's poured into me, I'm gonna mess up here. I mean, I'm not gonna have a jump that counts. And I remember him running down from the stands and giving me a little hug and says, hey Rod, you can do this. I know you can do this. We've worked hard on this. Just give it your best shot. And ran down that runway, bam, hit that board square on it, and jumped 12 feet 9 inches, a little fifth grader. That record went on to stand for 10 years. And I took a medal for first place. Now, if Mr. Hornbeck did not believe in me, could that ever happen? Not at all. It couldn't have happened. But because he believed in me and helped me and pushed me and saw something in me that I didn't even know existed, I didn't know all that little running and jumping I could do on the playground would ever amount to anything. I took first place in the long jump and held that record for 10 years in the Little Olympics. Amazing what somebody can do when they believe in you. I believe in you. I believe you can make this business happen. And if you have somebody in your court, somebody in your life that's not giving you belief, then just take it from me. I believe that you can make this business happen. I don't believe you came here without the skills to do it. So believe you possess them, because you do. And in 5th grade, I learned that from a gentleman that took some time and effort. Your prospects have to borrow that from you. You have to have it for it to be borrowed. And I borrowed it from Mr. Hornbeck and became a little Olympian in 5th grade who took first place in a long jump, and I still have that gold medal to prove it. It's in storage now. I wanted to take a picture of it to show here, but I still have it somewhere in my possession. But more than that, I have it in my mind. I have it in my belief level. And as time went on in this industry, I learned to pull from that. And then as I got into this industry and I still had some lack of belief that I could do it, I had another gentleman come along by the name of Mike Wilson, the first network marketing company I ever was part of. He didn't go on to have a lot of success in that. He sponsored me, and I had a little bit of success, but he helped catapult my belief level because he encouraged me to speak in front of a room full of people. And I really never thought I had anything ever important to say. But occasionally Mike would push me to give a testimonial in front of a room of people. And back then in network marketing, most of us had to do meetings and had to do seminars. You did seminars. I mean, you met Tuesdays and Thursday nights at the Marriott or the Hilton, and that's kind of the old school of network marketing. Well, Mike encouraged me and believed in me. He said one day, he said, Rod, when I can finally force you to get up there and give your testimonial, because you got to understand, you all know how introverted I was, and that was just hard for me to speak to one person while I was out in public. To speak to a group of 30 to 40 people, it paralyzed me. They say the greatest fear is talking in public. It's a bigger fear than death itself, and for me it certainly was. Well, Mike would say, Rod, I don't know what it is, but when you get up there and share your story, everybody listens. I'm talking and they're all tuning out, and I invite you to go up there and tell your story, and everybody perks up and listens to what you have to say. I don't know what it is, but I've noticed it with people. I need you to get up and tell your story so you can help folks out. I thought, well, okay, Mike, if you say so. I don't really think I have anything important to say, but I'll share my story. I think what was happening there and why people were paying attention to me is they saw how tortured I was, and how hard it was for me to even spit out my own personal testimonial. I'd hyperventilate. I talk, if you think I talk fast now, I talk a million miles an hour so I could just get off the stage from telling my story and go sit back down. So I think what people said is, good grief, I can see this guy's in torture. I can see this guy's having a hard time sharing his story. If he's sharing a story, it must be true because nobody would want to put themselves through all of that. I think that's what was happening. But in any event, Mike encouraged me to go out there and share my story, and therefore it helped me. He believed that I could actually help other people out by sharing my story. I leaned on that belief. I leaned on his belief in me for a while. And then, of course, the last person that is more responsible for any success that our family has ever experienced in this industry would be my incredible wife, Christina. If it wasn't for her, I guarantee you I would never be here. And it's her belief in me that caused me to get through many of the challenges I faced. I knew that Chris believed in me because she was doing things behind the scene to keep us in this business. Things like in the old beat-up rented house that we lived in, it happened to have a swimming pool. And she found a friend that was giving swimming lessons, and she would rent that pool out on Saturdays and Sundays to a friend for swimming lessons and would take part of that to help put food on the table. She believed in me enough to where almost every other Saturday we had a garage sale of what little we had left so we could make a few dollars, so it would keep me going in the business, so we could keep pushing forward. And she would do that and make a few dollars to put food on the table. She believed in me enough that it was a pretty common thing for at least once a month for her to go to the pawn shop and pawn off her jewelry so I could continue pushing forward in this business. Fortunately for us, she has an uncle who's a pretty well-known jeweler in San Francisco, so Chris had a great collection of jewelry that she would pawn off from time to time so we could put food on the table. We were the only person ever, the pawn shop owner ever said that 3 years later we went back there and paid everything off so she could get her jewelry back. Now, if that isn't belief, I don't know what is. So I'm telling you again, I borrowed belief from Mr. Hornbeck. I borrowed belief from Mike Wilson. I borrowed belief from my wife that believed in me and saw things in me that I didn't think existed. But because of that, I've been able to push through and make it in this business. Again, I believe in you. So you have to believe in yourself so you can lend it to others so you can get them to the other side. And again, if you don't have folks in your court that believe in you, just know that every fiber I'm made of, because I'm living proof that when others believe in you, you can get to the other side of this business. I do, with everything I'm made of, believe in you. Absolutely. So, with that being said, maybe I've got through the hard part of this presentation for me, but in any event, it's those stories that I recall, that I've revisited, that I've played over and over in my head. It's my why. It's those that believed in me have helped push me through to the other side of this business to know that I can do it. And again, we are a misfit. We are different. You and I have been wired different because we're meant to do something different with our life. And you weren't wired with this desire, with this ambition, with all that, without the tools to make it happen. You have them. Just sometimes we have to unbury them from places that, they've gotten buried from faulty program, from viruses implanted in from our head, from negativity, from people telling you that you can't do it. All that's just baloney geared to cause you not to be what you're called to do. You're called to succeed in this business well beyond your wildest dreams. Okay, number 3, see how the time's going here. I'm going a little bit longer here. Number 3 is you have to have a definite daily marketing game plan before your day begins. This is a big secret of mine, and I've never talked about this much, but I'm telling this group here that this is one of the things that's catapulted me to success. All 4 of these are really important, but this made a real big difference for me. Is I've always had for 21 years a definite daily marketing game plan before my day ever begins. This is a big tip, a big secret, and something that you want to get down in your daily game plan. I write my daily marketing plan the night before I ever get started for the following day. And I'll show you how I do that in a moment, and I'll make the resources available to you if you want to use them as well. But before the next day ever begins, I know what I'm going to do the following day. I read 15 minutes before I go to bed. Whether it's Jim Rohn, lately it's been Jim Rohn, and I've been listening to CDs from Coach Wooden, which is, whatever you listen to, whatever positive mental growth stuff you go through, whatever is your favorite, you want to put that into your head before you fall asleep at night. You want to implant that. So what happens here, and what's happened for me, is when I know what I'm going to do the following day, and then I back that up with some positive mental growth information for 15 minutes before I go to bed, what has happened to me is my subconscious mind will go to work helping the next day to be a very positive day. What I'm doing is I'm pre-programming my mind to make the following day very, very productive. And this really does work. I find that when I wake up the next day, I know what my marketing daily plan is for that following day. My mind has been fed with some positive stuff the night before. My subconscious mind will go to work that night while I'm resting, making sure that the whole plan comes together that day, that next morning when I wake up. This truly does work, and I'm sure no one's ever told you this type of stuff, but it's what makes my following day extremely productive. I find my conversations with people go better. I find the results are better. I find my attitude to attack that next day is better. I'm just kind of pre-programmed. I'm ready for battle to go out there and make the next day work, because I let those 4 or 5 or 6 hours go to work in my mind as I'm sleeping to prepare the following day. You need to do this. You need to do this. It truly does work wonders for your business. And this is what my daily marketing plan looks like. There's some of the marketing I'm going to add to this, but there's some of the marketing things that I do on a daily basis. And before my day gets started, I already know that I'm going to start off the day with 75. In this particular day, this was this last Thursday, with my 75 dial ditch 'em calls, that I was going to place 3 easy and solo ads, that I was going to do 50 intro lead calls, and then I was going to do some banner ads, and I was going to do some drop cards on my bike ride to the pier, and then I was going to do a phone broadcast. All this was already set up in my mind the night before, and I look at it, I read it, and then I know where I'm going the next day. Now, you can see up here that I actually know what time I'm going to be punching in my business and what time I'll be punching out of my business. And then I'll usually do follow-up calls and whatnot, and then again where I'm going to be punching in for my marketing activities and when I'm going to be punching out of my marketing activities. If anybody tries to reach me at these time slots from 7 to 9:30 on this Thursday, or from 1 to 2:15, good luck. You can't reach me. I'm involved in building my business and doing my marketing. One of the things I've learned to do in this business is I'm incredibly disciplined about doing the right activity that's going to make the income that's going to allow me to support my family. So nobody can interrupt that. You won't interrupt it. You won't even come close to interrupting it, nor will anybody else. I'm pretty structured. And if you need a list like this, I'll make this list available to everybody. When you get the recording to this, you can click on a download link and use it for your own business as well. A lot of these marketing techniques I'll be teaching you through all this and how to do these very effectively. So this will be very appropriate for your marketing as well. But I used to just scribble up what I'm doing. Now I just have a worksheet, and I'll check off what things I'm going to do that particular day, and then I will make sure they happen. So again, this has to be done the night before. You want your subconscious mind. I want my subconscious mind knowing that I'm doing dial and ditch, I'm doing easings, I'm doing calling to intro leads, I'm doing banner ads, I'm doing drop cards, and I'm doing phone broadcasting. I want it to know that I'm doing that. My subconscious mind is going to work on it throughout the night, and it's going to feed a positive attitude towards doing these things, because I read something positive for 15 minutes before I went to sleep. Again, I cannot tell you how important this is to your daily structure of building your business. If you go to bed at night and you don't have this done, you'll find the following day you're wandering all over the place. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no plan of attack. There's no specific tasks that you need to get done. And when I get them done, I check them off. Check them off, 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 check them off. And then these all go into a notebook. I save them and I put them in a notebook. And if I'm honest with myself, if that month didn't give me the results I was looking for, I'll look at this and say, okay, did I actually do what I set out to do the following morning? Did I check these items off? Whenever my business doesn't produce the results it should have produced that particular month, I notice that I'm not completing my tasks. Now, I can tell you these days and for many, many years, that doesn't happen to me anymore. But in the early days, I found out that occasionally I was not completing all my tasks. And if you don't complete the tasks, you're not going to create momentum in your business. So that's what I do every day is I check, I know what I'm going to do the night before, and then I go after it the following day with my mind already pre-programmed to get the best job I possibly can get done here. And as you can see with the 10 pinto beans that I used to do, and with this here and a couple other things you're going to see, these are what allow me to make it in this business by being very structured and very consistent with my activity. You got to be the same way. I really do treat this like a full-fledged business. I don't lollygag around with this. I don't play around with this. I don't kind of feel like I'm doing it. I flat out do it. I flat out do it every day, every day, every day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week if I'm creating momentum. So this is what my structured day would look like. This is, like I said, this is keep the reading material next to your bed. This is what next to my my nightstand. I've got Mr. Coach Wooden that I listen to. Just got this new book. I'm enjoying that, the Millionaire Messenger, and I love anything that Jim Rohn produces and the Treasury of Quotes. So in order to make sure that you do read for 15 minutes before you go to bed, don't have the book sitting in your office. Just put them on your nightstand. So you're getting ready to go to bed. You're going to take a look at them, and you're going to say, all right, Rod said I need to read 15 minutes before going to bed. Here's the book. I don't have to go anywhere. It's sitting right next to my bed. I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then lights out. So do that. Please do that. Structure your day before the day happens. Feed your mind with what it needs to be fed with so it can go to work that night, making sure your next day is productive as it possibly can. Now, these are easy things to do, but they're easy things not to do. And success in our business is really hidden in the small little nuances. The little things you do day in and day out creates the big success. But if you miss these things, it also causes you to have very average, less than average results. I mean, to move beyond mediocrity is hidden in the daily small habits we do each and every day. And I'm just sharing with you what I do every day. It's real easy for me to do this training because I walk my talk. I do these things. So I don't have to make something up. It's how I live my life every day. And it's what's caused me to go from a very average individual with tons of struggles, tons of hang-ups. My default program was very, very screwed up with a lot of viruses. I had to go through a lot of stuff. And if I can make it by these little daily habits I do, there's no reason why you can't. Because I firmly believe most people come into our industry, most people, and probably all of you fit this, you have by far more talent, more ability, less messed up than I was when I came into this business, so there's no reason why you can't make it. I mean, I know in the early days, a lot of people, when I do my seminars and training meetings in the early days of network marketing, people would say, good grief, if I can do it, I'm going to tear it up. And I'm okay with that. I'm good with that because I feel that's very, very true. If I can do it, anybody can tear it up. And then number 4 is you must create your own personal marketing momentum to fill the pipeline. You have to create your own marketing momentum. There's 2 ways you can build this business. You can build it slow. You can build it fast. Building it slow is incredibly painful. It is painful to make this business go slow. It's painful to get slow or no results. It's painful to be in the trenches with, or think you're in the trenches with no real results. I mean, all the check is, all the money that you're making, it's just a report card to let you know you're on track. That's all it is. But you need to create your own personal momentum by doing this. How I create my personal momentum is what I've showed with you so far. But I work in what I call 90-day madmen cycles. And those madmen cycles is what allows me to create momentum. When I first got back out after taking a 4.5-year vacation, got back into this business, in order to get the big ticket industry going again, which I think it was very dormant for a long time, I went on a 90-day madmen cycle talking about what I've just talked about right there. And we kind of revived the big ticket side of our industry. In fact, we're controlling a large portion of it because of my very first 90-day madmen cycle. Now, typically what I will do is I will have a meeting with my family. I get them involved in what I'm doing, and I let them know this is what I'm going to be doing. You guys need to give me the time and space to get it done. And my family's pretty well programmed that when Dad is on a 90-day Mad Men cycle, we need to just let him be and let him do what he needs to do. And I let them know that if all goes well, which it will, and if they let me go on one of my 90-day Mad Men cycles, there's going to be a big reward down the road. Maybe it's going to be like the last one we did is we took a weekend vacation over to Catalina Island and enjoyed ourselves. But they let me do these 90-day Mad Men cycles. It allows to get the job done. So whoever you're accountable to, whoever is in your family, the significant other, let them know you're getting ready to embark on an energy level in this business, on one of your own madman or madwoman cycles to get the job done. Now, another little thing that I do is to let the family, remind the family that I am on one of those, is I have a little sign on my door. And the sign says, "Do not disturb Dad. Dad's on a 90-day Mad Men cycle." And when they look in the glass doors in the office and they see I have a sign on my door, they leave me alone. They let me go through my Mad Men cycle to get the business done. So whatever you need to do to make sure that you don't have interruptions, that if you carve out these specific time slots during the day to do the business, let your family know that from this time to this time you're working, and then maybe you take a little break, and then from this time to this time you're working. Let them know what your schedule is, because it can be sometimes kind of difficult to juggle one of these businesses out of your house. Let them know what you're doing so they can kind of let you do what you need to do. And a lot of times that requires a little bit of a family meeting to get together. And then, of course, let them know there's always a reward, because they're helping you do this by not interrupting you. You have an award at the end of all this to make sure that they don't interrupt you when you're building your business. So my family's been pretty well programmed that when they see that sign on my door, they kind of leave me alone. And that's what needs to happen, because working out of your house, there's a lot of distractions. And you need to have a space that you close off, and you go to work, and you build your future for your family, and then you push forward. And that's what's really helped me a lot also. I don't really need to put that sign on my door anymore. My family pretty much knows that the door's closed. The headset's on, Dad's on the phone, he's looking at his computer, he's working. It allows me to give my family just a dream lifestyle. And that is still my driving reason today, to let my wife and my girls and my kids go do what they want to do, go buy what they want to do. They don't look at price tags on things. They just have a great life. And my part as a father, as a provider of my family, is to make sure that happens. So let's just recap here real quickly. These are some of the things that I want you to have ingrained. Number one is, please take some time this weekend or throughout this week and have your emotional, passionate reason why you're doing this. Why are you going to carve some time out of your schedule? Why are you going to take some time away from your family? Why are you going to do something extra here in your life? What is the reason why, and what things in life are left undone? That if you can get the financial burden out of your life, what is it that you really want to do? What is it? Because I know it's not about money. I know it's not about having gobs of cash sitting around. That's not what it's about. It's much, much deeper than that. And you need that deep driving reason to push you through the challenges. Belief, you need the belief, number one, because that also helps you get through the challenges. You have the belief because I firmly believe you weren't called to do this because you don't have the tools within your possession. You do, they're there. But the main reason for belief is you need to allow other people to borrow it. Because most folks come into this business doubting, they don't understand, they don't know if they can do it, they have some emotional hang-ups, whatever it might be. If your belief is strong, if your belief is loud, if they can hear it in your conviction when you're talking to them, you can lend it to them. They can borrow it, and then you can get them to where they need to go. Just as I told your story on Mr. Hornback, Mr. Wilson, and my incredible wife, I borrowed their belief. They believed in me and saw things in me that I didn't think I had. And because I was able to do that, I was able to push to the other side and realize that, yeah, those things are there. And our prospects need to do the same thing. So, you want to let people be able to have, if you don't have an abundance of belief, if you don't have a belief reservoir overflowing, it's too difficult for people. You don't have it to give. So you want to have that. Have a definite daily plan of why you're going to do this. I mean, not why, your definite daily plan of what you have to accomplish the following day is what I meant to say. You want to know definitely why, what you want to accomplish the following day. And the reason for that, the why for that is what I'm trying to say is, if you don't have that in place, if you don't know, if you don't have your day all planned out the following day, then it's too easy to get off track. So the why to have that definite daily plan is to know already what you're going to do that following day. You already have scheduled that this time slot is when you're going to build your business. This time slot is when you're doing your marketing activities. You don't have to sit there for the first couple of hours of each day and waste those first 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out what you're going to do that day. It's already mapped out. Your mind's already been programmed with it. You've already slept on it. Your subconscious mind went to work on it overnight, and then you wake up in the morning and bam, you attack that day, laser focused, knowing exactly what you need to do that day. That's the why. That's why you want to have your definite daily plan. I think you'd agree with me that if you didn't start your day off that way, you meander a bunch of, you do a lot of things during the day that aren't business building activities. And you get involved with a lot of activity that's not really going to increase the bottom line. And before you know it, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours went by that day, and you didn't accomplish anything that was going to get you further ahead in the reasons why you want to do this business. But the why is, and when you create that definite daily plan, bam, you start off right off in the morning, attacking the day with what you need to do. And that's the why. And then create momentum. The reason you want to create momentum, the main reason is not because it gets you up and going making money in this business. It immediately starts you developing the right habits, the right techniques, the right strategies, the right mindset, the right everything to succeed in this business. And the only way you can do that is by throwing massive activity at this business. And when you throw massive activity at this business, then you can tweak things. Then you can adjust things. But everybody wants to adjust or tweak no activity. You can't adjust or tweak no activity. You can adjust or tweak activity. And when you create the activity, you figure out real quickly what works well for you and what doesn't. But you got to create momentum to figure out what that is. And then once you build on that, because you know what you're doing, you build more momentum on knowing exactly what to do, then all of a sudden your business becomes easy. It does become easy. I find this business today, because where I've come from, is incredibly easy to do. It wasn't always, but I've worked through all this, and now today it's become second nature. I live, I eat, I breathe, I think, I am this business because of where I've come in the last 20 some odd years. And much of it is with these 4 things that I've talked about. These are 4 foundational mental beliefs you have to have in place. So when you generate that first lead, you are the person that lead needs to hear you to be to get that conversion, so you too can go out there and help them succeed in this business as well. Now I want you to have an assignment, and before we go any further, in these trainings, because you have a week to think about this before we get into the last secret step that I have, I want you to spend some time on your why. I want you to write down your why. If you would be bold enough to share with me your why, email it over to me. I will read each and every one of them that I receive. And if you allow me to be bold enough with you to say, you know what, your why is weak, or you know what, your why is perfect. Now, I know everybody's why is their own why, so I can't really say that your why is not on track, but I will say your why is not on track if it just reeks of, I want to make a ton of money. I don't want that to be the why. That's just not going to drive you. Money doesn't drive any of us. It shouldn't drive any of us. You're not in this business to make money. You're in this business to be free, and there's other things in life that are left undone that, yes, money can take care of those, but money is just a report card that you're on track to where your life can move in the area that you want it to go. So if you will spend some time on the why and be nice enough to share with me, I'd like to read them. I really would. And I'd like to see your reasons why you want to do this. It's important to me. Next week, I'm going to talk about the last part too before we get into lead generation of the how and why I enroll 1 or 2 reps out of every 6 people that I talk to, and I really do. For every 6 folks that I talk to, I always get at least 1 sign up, and many times I get as many as 2. I've actually gone as high as 3, and I want to talk about that. That's the last of this kind of mental series of getting you prepared for the lead generation that's about ready to hit. And then, as I said, our mental foundation is complete, and then we're going to move on to lead generation. But it's so important to me that as you're generating leads, the effort that you generate that you take to generate that lead, and in some cases, a little bit of dollars you're going to spend to generate lead, that when that lead comes in, you're in the proper mental frame of mind to be the most effective of getting a conversion and helping that person out to get involved with our family here and succeed. So I know that was a lot to absorb. I went about 15 minutes over. I really hope you got something out of this and you don't just tune out what I said here, because what I said here truly is the reason for my success. is laying that foundation. All right, folks, if you have any feedback about what I've shared here this morning, please email it to me. If this made some difference for you, if what I said impacted you, share it with me. That helps me out a lot as well. I like to know that I'm on the right track and that this boot camp is going to be the most successful training I've ever done. And the proof of that is if I'm making a difference for you. And if I'm making a difference for you, if I'm helping to push you to the other side to get to a point where you can succeed with this business, that is how I'm wired. That is what I'm all about. And that's what I'm truly passionate about. All right? Love you guys. God bless you. Have a great day. And send me some feedback. Take care and look forward to the next one. Bye for now.